Some comments, I really do. I like some comments, don't care about you. I like some comments.
Oh, this is a good start, isn't it? I say, now hang on one blinking frinking minute. One might somewhat politely protest, but this is cheating. Surely, although similar in appearance to the letter X, the Roman numeral this depicts is actually 13, which, were I the pedantic sort, actually begins with T, as well you know. As well I do know, aye. Ta very much, you supercilious gimp, but not only am I totally disinterested in your irksome tittle-tattle, I'm even less concerned about your frankly laborious limitations on what I can and cannot do. Ta very much. Besides, as we have now clearly established, for reasons best left on the couch, I am somewhat drawn to illustrations of square-jawed bits of rough, cold stone glaring at swans. So are we to presume that this fellow is as confused as we are as to why these apparently majestic creatures are given special protection by the crown of this fair land? I mean, what makes swans so special, eh? Eh? Let's find out. Or not. Now, we very soon find out that the name of this tome accurately reflects the number of issues collected within, though the somewhat perfunctory two-line synopsis here strongly suggests an air of can't really be arsedness, which is something I can well empathise with. But will the news that this work was translated from another tongue encourage you to give it a chance based on that initial disappointment? I do hope so. So it kicks off proper with this lovely looking couple and their handsome hound pulling a barely live one out the sea. A salty spin on Big Soup's origins perhaps, though this dude has a notable notation on his nubile neck. What can it all mean, I wonder? And while I guess the premise is interesting enough for starters, it feels a bit clunky from the get-go here, with unnatural dialogue that farts along, trying to add a bit of meat to bones. But conversations like this, and the flotsam fella, and the local struck-off surgeon that happens 3 or 4 pages in, don't all bode too well at all, really. But like I said, unfortunately due to my lingual limitations, I don't really know if that's due to poor penmanship or terrible translation. Maybe a bit of both. Well, a few pages on, and it starts to kick off proper. And our anti-hero can look after himself, no doubt about that. But whoever it were put him in big drink in first place means business. And mean business at that. Now, while I somewhat stoically struggled on to end at first issue with this, I packed it in there. And then I left it for a few days. Dipped into a couple more titles to cleanse my palate and whatnot. But trying to return, I just couldn't face the ongoing slog, really. Dozen more of these, No chance, Charlie. I've read a couple of bits here and there, online and whatnot, reckoning this title to be like some boss espionage yarn with more twists and turns than something like, dead twisty and that. But it was too much effort and ag for me. So here we are. I might be reasonably interested, I guess, at a push. If anyone out there with taste can sell me as to why it might be worth having another crack at this sometime if I'm stuck. But other than that, insincere apologies to anyone out there who honestly believes they have the God-given right to be disappointed in my ability to see through what one could assume is a relatively straightforward pain-free task, such as reading comics and stuff. But it ain't first time, is it really, I've pulled a stunt like this, and it won't be last. So, there. However, this is doubtless one X we can all agree on. At long last. Pin X-ray specs, innit, man? Gotta say, this weekly one-page in Buster, along with some very attractive advertising in various superhero comics down years, got me to drop my last 10 bob as a gullible young'un in order to shell out for a not dissimilar pair of so-called X-ray specs during a Dane's House Club Kids Day out to Blackpool way back when. Looking back on this purchase, I don't really know what I thought were going to happen, if I thought about what were going to happen either, but spoilers, I ended up with X-ray egg on my skint little chops as a result. They didn't X-ray anything, man. Nothing, in fact. I tried it on bricks, tried it on bones. My vision got blurred and oddly monochromatic, but no. And I couldn't see it at the time, like often we can't with life's little chunky chapters, but it were a learner for me with that. And as I moved on with my young life, I still read the regular adventures of young Ray here, but I knew now to take it all with a pinch of see-through sea salt. On reflection, is it possible this was first rung on this sadly cynical ladder I now stand precariously atop? Happen it were. But they need to be learned sometimes, don't they? Life lessons like that. So sooner rather than later, I guess. Maybe it did me some good in the long run, helping me avoid various con merchants and opportunistic shysters seeking to turn me already spacious pockets out altogether. But I've got to confide, as I sat there as a young'un on bus home from Foul Coaster Duke Bar, while my peers tucked into treacle dummies and penny sugars and whatnot, I just peered solemnly out at window into a blurry, monochromatic, somehow crueler world, and I recall quite poignantly that I felt like I'd been turned over somewhat, man. I felt like I'd been turned over. Now then, full disclosure here, and bear in mind, what I say here may well be sacrilegious to some sanctimonious superhero supporters, but I've never really got into X-Men kit. Not really. On a wider scope, I dug some of that gear where Wolverine's, gone old and whatnot, and the arcade game's alright for a, like a teenage turtle style walk and whack. But apart from that, with this being the first stroke probably last X episode, and I'm obviously incredibly non-resourceful stroke lazy, here we are. And when trying to sort what from what, I said to the dude at Young Comics Shop, I said, here, what gives with the X-Men then, Junior? And he gives me one of two options. It's the first page on this, and I'm sure you all know by now how I feel about some oddly bearded fellow named Morlack being dressed down, for any reason really. Though his impatience on aeronautical affairs has always been a personal favourite. So we're off to a decent start there, I've got to admit. Got me thinking, what have I been missing out on all these X-Men-less years, I wonder? Well, the Avengers, for starters, seemingly. But of infinitely more pertinence here for me are two phrases I seem to spend my entire waking life in keen anticipation of, and those are, of course, quote, by my beard, unquote, and the more simplistic, quote, zounds, unquote. A very grand and groovy word. You'd assume you might run into much more than you do, but you don't. Shaggy rocks it sometimes, doesn't he? You know, if there's like a spook on go, but apart from that, I say really, just what have I been missing out on all these X-Men-less years, eh? Don't bear thinking about, man, do it. But up to now, it's all Avengers, man, innit? And it's Avengers without their Submariner to boot, who, while handy enough in seabed scraps such as this, got to say Prince Namor's always been a bit too cocksure of himself for me, really. Bit big for his snazzy short-skin speedos, like, you know. This cuddles on, though, and the Fantastic Four rock up to help suss out what's going down, which of course leads to a heart-to-heart conversation between She-Hulk and the Human Torch, where our green goddess spills her heartfelt haricot beans regarding fanciful feelings towards John Hercules and Tom Selleck. Zounds! And the X-Men people finally make an appearance via a much needed backstory. About halfway through this, that helps set the scene for what we've seen so far and what's going to come out of it. So, I mean, it takes a while to get there, but